Hey guys, in this video we're going to take a look at how to work with the materials for the mannequin so that later on we can do some more advanced things, like this guy here has a cloaking device that we can turn on and off. But before we do, we just need to see how the basic materials for the mannequin work. So the mannequin was designed to be sort of like a learning tool where it shows you all kind of material layers, functions, and instances, and that's really good for learning purposes, but it can get in the way when you're just trying to do your own stuff. Like for instance, one of the problem areas that people will have is the logo here. They're trying to get it to be nice and clean like this one here because they don't want it to be messing up their effect. So let's go ahead and just do a brief rundown of the materials for the mannequin first. Okay, so let's start by taking a look at the materials for the mannequin, and you can find this that it comes with the starter content. So what we have here is we have the main material, the base material, and then you have the logo here. Now there's a typo in the starter content. It says M_UE4 mannequin. It's actually supposed to say MI because if you look in the parentheses, this is a material instance. And then the female body is, again, it's just a material instance. And then this one here is the material layers. These are going to be the layers that you'll find on the base material. So let's open this up. And you can see that the material layers, the ML, they're actually, if you look in the parentheses, they're material functions. And so that's how you create material layers, is with material functions. And we'll do a more dedicated video on how to do that later. Right now we just want to focus on the mannequin itself. So let's go back to the first folder. And whenever you want to do any type of work with anything, you usually want to make copies of them so you don't mess up the originals. So for this demonstration, I only need to make a copy of the base material, but if you're going to be doing some more intensive work, you might want to back everything up. So I'll go ahead and copy this over to my work folder, and then we'll pick it up there. Okay, and let's go ahead and take a look at our copy of the base material. And at first it might seem a little confusing, but it's actually quite simple. We start off with the body color, and that's what's feeding into all the layers. And so we'll start with this execution wire first. And our first layer, and remember these are being made by material functions. And so this first layer is plastic shiny beige. So let's go ahead and open it up. And the primary attribute for this one is going to be the base color. So let's go ahead and put a little note to ourselves. We'll just say base color. And then that layer is going to be blended with the next layer, and it's called soft metal. So we'll take a look at it. And the primary attribute for this one is the metallic value. So we'll go ahead and close that. And we'll just say metallic. And then these two layers are going to be blended with the next layer, glossy black. So we'll open this one up. And the primary attribute for this one is going to be the roughness value. So let's put a note to ourselves. And then all of these layers together are going to form the material for the body of the mannequin. And so when they're all blended together, they're going to be passed into this parameter switch. And anytime we're dealing with a parameter, we know that we're going to be using material instances. And the default value for this parameter switch is false. So if we come out of the false pin, we know that we're talking about the body of the mannequin. And if we come out of the true pin, then we know we're talking about the logo of the mannequin. So let's go ahead and open up the logo layer. And the primary attribute here is going to be the opacity mask value. So we'll close this, and we'll make a note to ourselves, and we'll just say logo mask. And since it's an opacity mask, let's check the base material itself. We see the blend mode is masked. So it's not an opaque material, it's a masked material so that we can use the opacity mask value. And once it's made the decision of either true or false, it will then come out and it will blend with a normal map. And again, the normal map is a parameter, so that means that we can choose which normal map we want in the material instance. And so once it's finished with that blend, it comes out and it forms the final material output. And the reason why it's collapsed is because it kind of functions like a struct from any other blueprint that you might be familiar with. So if we come down and we select, or we deselect use material attributes, Now we have our normal material node that you're used to seeing, and we'll come out of this pin, and just like any other struct, we'll type in break, and this will break open the material attributes, and then we can recombine the struct using all of the options that we want. We have a base color, a metallic, a roughness, an opacity mask, and a normal map. So let's go ahead and save and compile this real quick. Okay, I'm back here in the content browser. Let's go ahead and apply our material to this guy here in the middle. So we'll apply it to element 0, which is for his body. But if we apply it to element 1, which is for the logo, we'll see that we're still getting that messed up part there in the middle. And that's because the logo has to be activated through a material instance. Now, rather than copy it over from the starter content, we'll just create one together. So we'll right click and we'll hit create material instance, and we'll rename it mi_logo. And let's go ahead and open it up. Okay, and the material instance will automatically pull in all the derived parameters from the base material. And so we have plastic override, we have a texture mask, and we have a normal map. So real quick, let's go back to the base material. We already looked at the plastic override. That's the true-false switch. When we're saying false, we're talking about the body, element 0. And when we say true, we're talking about the logo, element 1. We took a look at the normal map. Currently it's set at default to the normal map of the male body. And there was also the texture mask, and that helps feed into some of the material blends that we saw earlier. So let's go back to the material instance, and the only one that we want to deal with right now is the plastic override. So by default it's false. Let's set it to true. Now we're looking at just the logo, and so we can see that the back half is invisible, and that's because of the opacity mask that we're applying through this layer right here. And the normal map for it, we'll activate that, and we'll change it from the default male normal map to the logo normal map. And now it's displaying properly. We'll go ahead and save that. And now we can apply this to element 1, and now it's displaying properly on his body. So now let's go back to the base material, and let's see if we can make some customizations to it. And we can customize it anywhere we want. We can do that over here where the material first originated, or we can customize it on an individual material layer. If we open it up, we can make any changes we want. Just remember that if you're going to do this, to first make a copy of the material layer so you don't overwrite the original, and then you also have to select it here and then change it to the copy that you just made. It'll automatically populate in this list. We can also make changes after we break the attributes out and before we recombine them. So real quick, let's just do some quick changes. We'll start by changing the base color. We'll just pull out a 3 vector, and let's make it blue. And we'll plug that in. And then we'll do another 3 vector, and we'll change the color of the logo. Let's just make it this color here. And then let's also change the metallic and the roughness. For the metallic, I'll just use a subtract, and I'll plug that in. And for the roughness, I'll just use an add and plug that in. And then let's compile and save that. And then let's go back to the content browser. Okay, and we can see that the material is applied correctly to the character. Let's say you wanted to make some other changes. We could go back to the material instance for the logo, and if you had a custom normal map that you wanted to use for whatever character you're currently working on, let's say if it's supposed to have the Superman logo or the Batman logo, or maybe it's supposed to have like Darth Vader's control panel on his chest, you would just select your normal map. Then you would go back to the base material, and then you would come over here to the logo mask layer, and you'd open it up, and you would change the alpha mask to match whatever your normal map was, and then you could go ahead and save that. And remember, this is assuming that you made a copy of this layer first, and that you come over here and you point to that copy. But let's go ahead and go back to the content browser. And now in addition to the male mannequin, we also have the female mannequin. So again, we can select her and we can go to her materials. And let's first start with applying the logo to element 1 because they're universal between the male and the female. But if we apply the male body, which is the base material, if we apply that to element 0, we notice that it's not aligned properly. And that's again because the female material was actually a material instance. So let's go ahead and create that. And we'll call this material instance female. And let's open it up. And here we don't need to override the logo, but we do want to override the texture mask and the normal map. So we see here the texture mask is for the male, so let's just find the female version, and there it is right there. And then the normal map is again for the male, so let's find the female version, and there it is. And then let's go ahead and save that. And now let's go back to the content browser, and now we have the female version. We'll apply that to element 0, and so now she's properly aligned with the material as well. So one of the main things that the mannequin is intended to show us is that in terms of resource costs for your computer, it's better to have a single base material and then use as many layers and instances as you need to create the variety for your characters. For example, you could have multiple material instances to create different logos for different team members. So now that we know how the basics work, we're going to want to do more than just change the color. We're going to want to work on more advanced material functions to create different effects, and we'll be able to plug them into the mannequin without running into any problems. But for now, I hope that helped. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in another video.